So again, thank you so much for joining us for Agile Video Fundraising. We really appreciate your time, and we are extremely excited to share with you a lot of the success our partners have been having using video, using specifically Agile Video Fundraising. This is kind of an exciting shift for Groundwork Digital. We've been around for more than 2 years now. We've been having a lot of fun with our partners, and we're moving more and more towards video. My career really, since I've left college almost 20 years ago now, has been entirely built around two things: video and fundraising strategy. And I'm very proud and honored to say that we've been rewarded quite handsomely in both areas. We are an Emmy-winning YouTube shop. We are an award-winning online fundraising shop. Groundwork Digital brings a lot of experience together, a lot of creative ability together, a lot of innovative thinking to the forefront to do things with and for our partners. And we are so thrilled to be able to do those things and then to be able to share some of those case studies with you during a webinar like we have today. I'm also very pleased to introduce one of the newest members of Groundwork Digital's teams, Mariana Bunkers. Mariana is the digital media manager and the head videographer, and she brings an incredible amount of ideas and experience and knowledge to the forefront. She's leading our video efforts right now, and she's really the driving force behind this Agile video fundraising concept that we're going to talk about today. And she's going to share with you in just a bit some information and a case study from a recent giving day at the University of South Dakota, and just how well that event went. And a big part of the reason why it went so well is the video that was shot before the event, but especially the day of video. We'll talk to you about how we can make that work for giving days and other live events. So more than ever before, it's incredibly important that we're able to seize the moment in marketing and communications. You might think back to the Super Bowl 6 years ago in New Orleans when they were playing in the Superdome. It was the Ravens versus the 49ers, and right at the beginning of the second half, the power went out and most of the lights went out in the stadium. And they couldn't play football anymore because without lights, it's obviously tough to see that game. So, you know, the Super Bowl is a marketing showcase. You've got advertisers spending $6 to $8 to $10 million just to buy ad space in between play during the commercial breaks during the Super Bowl. And you know, it's the type of thing where it's obviously all eyes on that event. So any way that an advertiser, a marketer, or brand can take advantage of the attention that the Super Bowl generates is a very good thing. Now, Oreo cookies didn't have a big ad buy during that Super Bowl. But when the power went out, they did have a very nimble thinking social media team that quickly put together this meme that you see right now on your screen. It says, "You can still dunk in the dark." And this was seen by many, many, many millions of people. In fact, I can't remember a single advertisement from that Super Bowl, but we're still talking about this Oreo cookie meme that went out during that blackout, during the Super Bowl. Very real time, very agile marketing, very inexpensive. The amount of money that Oreo cookie spent to make this happen, probably in the low six figures, if that. We're just talking about really the staff salary for whoever was working that evening, as opposed to, you know, the millions of dollars of ad spend that most of the other brands put to have their names seen at some point during that Super Bowl in a less relevant way. Agile marketing is the practice of marketing in the moment, seizing the moment, and agile fundraising is the same thing. We can use this same agile concept to have a lot of success with fundraising as well. Groundwork Digital has been doing this for better than a year now, working with our partners to seize the moment, to have success with agile fundraising, agile video. And what we see here is a campaign from the University of Minnesota in the winter of 2008 when they were able to leverage an enormous event, another Super Bowl. And I promise this is the last Super Bowl example for the presentation. When the Super Bowl was played in Minneapolis at the US Bank Stadium, Justin Timberlake was the halftime show, and he invited the University of Minnesota marching band to perform during halftime of the Super Bowl. An incredibly exciting event for the University of Minnesota to have the kids out there on the field on an international stage playing with a superstar like Justin Timberlake was really something. And this is certainly something that if we could leverage it for fundraising, we wanted to be able to do, but we had very little time, less than 1 week to plan this agile fundraising campaign. Now, here's what's especially exciting and in a sense insane about this is not only were we able to spin up a campaign, but we were able to use this to make a major gift happen. A major gift donor was engaged and a $100,000 gift was given to support this marching band campaign. Now, we didn't find out about the Super Bowl opportunity at the University of Minnesota until about a week before the actual event itself. That's not a good timeline for going through cultivation and solicitation of a major gift donor, obviously. But our agile process involves a major gifts team. And when the major gift team is involved in this digital agile process, what we're able to do is talk with donors about opportunities that may or probably will eventually happen. And for the right donor who's active in the digital space, that's a really exciting concept. Basically, the ask is, we need X amount of dollars from you. We want X amount of dollars from you to make this happen, but we don't have the event yet because we want to make sure that we're able to get the most bang for our buck from your giant gift. So when the time comes, when the news aligns, when current events provide an opportunity for us, we're going to come back to you and ask for that gift. Sound good? It did. They were very excited. And when this band opportunity happened with the Super Bowl, it was a pretty easy ask. So the groundwork was laid with the donor well in advance. They knew something was coming, but then when the actual event happened, it was like a switch flip. They were ready to go with that $100,000 gift. They made that gift. Giving site was spun up, simple crowdfunding page, easy to do. Marketing communication plans was built and executed. We're going to talk about agile marketing, agile fundraising, agile video in just a second, and how to do that. But that, again, is something that you need to be prepared for. You need to be prepared to be nimble for an agile opportunity like this because the reward is tremendous. This agile marketing crowdfunding campaign, this is a single crowdfunding project, remember. Not a giving day, not a series of a dozen different crowdfunding projects, but one crowdfunding project to send the band, the marching band, on a road game this past fall, which did happen, because they raised $183,000, including that $100,000 big gift from the major gift donor, plus another, I think, almost $90,000 in gifts now before the campaign was closed out. In addition to the dollars, and we often see this with smart, strong, sophisticated online campaigns, almost 700 donors made a gift. 110 of them were first-time donors to the University of Minnesota. Most important, 12 major gift prospects made their first gift ever to the University of Minnesota as a result of this campaign. Agile fundraising can work well at every level: annual, leadership annual, and major gifts. And while it's nice when you have the Super Bowl land in your lap, you don't have to have a massive international event to have success. You really just need to think about your audience and what is timely and relevant at a certain point in time to that audience to be able to leverage agile fundraising opportunities. And a giving day is actually one of the best examples of that. And this is where I'm going to turn it over to Mariana in just a second here. And she's going to take the lead on the presentation because she has a lot to say about University of South Dakota's Giving Day, something we just wrapped up in mid-February. It was a tremendous event, a very exciting event, and something that you can absolutely use as an example for how to do agile video fundraising. So Mariana, I'm going to give you the keys to the control here, and you go ahead and take it over.
There we go. So UNITEFORUSD was the University of South Dakota's first ever online giving day. So we had an initial goal of 500 gifts and a stretch goal of 700 gifts. And while Justin mentioned we had pre-produced video, we found that the really big key to our success in this entire giving day was the Agile video that we were able to produce on the day of and deploy the same day. That was very relevant to where we were at in conjunction to our goals for that giving day. So on the first day, which was really the beginning of our Agile engagement, we just produced a video thanking donors that had already given and encouraging donors to keep giving. We hadn't yet reached any of our goals, but we still wanted to produce a video that was day of, in the moment, and actually had students that were in some of those pre-produced videos in this Agile video that we produced. So we just wanted to keep donors really engaged, and kind of the point of Agile video is to allow people who aren't on campus to get a feeling of what it's like to be on campus. And so even though we hadn't reached any goals yet, we wanted to keep that engagement going. So on day 2 was when we really saw the results of our Agile video kick up. So the first video we produced was with Jim Abbott, who is a former president of USD. He was there because this entire giving day was centered around the inauguration of the new president, and was kind of in celebration with that. So the former president was there. We didn't know that he was going to be there. He happened to just stop by in the command center, and we decided that we had to take advantage of it. He was a very well-known and well-liked president, and so we knew a message from him would be really powerful for our donors. And then we produced a second video, and this video again had students that were in the pre-produced video, and these students were thanking donors, thanking corporate partners for their matching gifts, and encouraging new donors to help meet their stretch goal. The really important thing about this was the thanking of our corporate partners. Vegan Construction, we had met that goal of 700 donors earlier that day. So it's part of an overall corporate engagement. We were able to increase their exposure because while they did produce a video previous to the beginning of this Giving Day campaign, we were able to further their exposure as well as give them a public and personal thank you from the university, which again is just part of a broader overall engagement strategy with a corporate partner. So our final results from this Giving Day, we surpassed all of our goals. We had 853 total donors, 853 total donors, over $200,000 raised, and kind of like Justin had said previously, we really saw a bump in new donors. Almost 25% of our donors were first-time donors during Unite for USD, which for comparison, generally we get about a 12 to 15% new donors. So this was a really, really big bump. And we kind of want to give a lot of that to our new strategy and our Agile video strategy that we were able to deploy, just to be able to keep donors engaged and feeling like they were really in the moment and on campus. So the way to kind of make Agile video happen, the most important thing is your video production, but not just video production. You need your video production to be part of your overall strategy of the event. You need them to know what is happening, what is going on, and you need this for a couple of reasons. One of the main reasons is because video people know video. And so it allows them to look for opportunities to be able to leverage the strategy and your goals that you've already set in place, because you could maybe have this incredible video idea, but it might not just be feasible to do for Agile, because one of the most important things with Agile is you need to have a fast production team. So whether it's a single person or a video team, you need them to be able to work fast, because with Agile video, you want it to be produced, shot, produced, deployed within roughly 90 minutes. If it could be less, that's great. But so again, your video team knows what they're capable of doing in that short amount of time. And so you really need everyone to be on the same page to allow for successful, well-produced videos to be deployed. And then kind of the plan going into this, you can have a plan, a broader plan. You know what your goals are going to be. You know potentially how this video or Giving Day is going to, lay out. But inevitably it's, going to go the way it goes. So you really need to just be flexible in your plan. You can have ideas of opportunities that, you could use to leverage video, but in the end, you just need to be able to look out for whatever opportunities come your way, because you don't want to potentially miss an opportunity. You need to take advantage of whatever you see. And the final thing is, and this goes along with having a plan, have an idea of who your talent's going to be ahead of time. Again, you could maybe have someone like Jim Abbott, like we have, just come in, and that's just a person that you can't miss, and you have to take that opportunity to get a video of them. But we had a lot of students that we had in previously produced videos, so we knew what these students, how they worked. We knew what they were capable of, and so with our students, we actually had scripts that we gave them, and it was only a couple sentences at a time, nothing big, something that we could spit at them, and they could tell them, and they could spit right back at us. But with Jim Abbott, we kind of gave him a general guideline, tell people why you're here, encourage people to give, thank people for giving. And so, as long as you know who you are, or have a general idea of who you're going to have in your video, that's going to allow for your production and your editing and just an easier job for your videographers. Because again, Agile video, it needs to happen very quickly. And so you don't want to miss that deployment opportunity. And so if you have a well-produced structure, that's really helpful. And so again, going back to the knowing your talent, having students that were already in videos, that's kind of an intro into the student content team, having students that have notable faces, as well as just having worked with them before, being able to know what they're capable of, which is what Justin is going to talk about next, I believe.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mariana. Really appreciate it. That's absolutely right. That's what we're about to talk about here, is how to build this, how to structure your development operation to take advantage of agile video fundraising. Because you've seen it at the end of the year, you've seen it on Giving Tuesday. There's a tremendous amount of noise in the online fundraising space. There's a tremendous amount of noise in the online space. To stand out, you need to be timely, relevant, and really tuned in, tied into what is happening at any one particular point in time. That's the beautiful piece about the Agile video, is that it's so of the moment, it's so real time, it's so engaging, because it's what's happening on campus during a giving day, during a gala, during a big event, during a march, during a rally, whatever is taking place at that point in time, being able to show people that experience in an almost real-time way. There's Facebook Live, that's a great way of doing it as well. But we found that doing this quick turnaround agile video also leads to a lot of success in terms of capturing your audience, your donors, your supporters, your constituents, their attention. Now, like Mariana said, you do need fast working videographers. A lot of people will have a video team on staff, but if they're not used to moving quickly, if you go to them and say, hey, can you go shoot 3 interviews, put together a script, have it edited in 90 minutes, they'll look at you like you're crazy. But there are some videographers who are very good at doing that. It's what we pride ourselves on at Groundwork Digital. It's what former journalists might do, for example, might be very used to working under tight deadlines. You need someone who can react and change focus quickly, someone who can say, that was what I was working on, but this is now the priority, because this major gift just happened, and there's a bunch of students who are accepting a gigantic check from one of our biggest donors. That needs to become a video story right now to drive this giving day, both to steward that major gift donor, but also to drive donor interest in the giving day itself. Somebody who's excited by deadlines. Like I said, former journalist, if you're looking to hire for this role, someone who spent 5-10 years in a newsroom as a videographer is a fantastic example, especially for someone who's been sort of that one-person band, where they're both the reporter, the videographer, and the producer. Those are some of the best, most versatile employees for the job. You do need also well-trained, enthusiastic video stars, like Mariana mentioned. We had students at University of South Dakota, at USD, who we've been working with for quite a few months leading up to the giving day. They were in some of the pre-giving day promotional videos. This is not something that is necessarily only going to work in the university space. I could see grateful patient programs. I could see boards or volunteer programs that really engage volunteers being effective content team members as well. I mean, ultimately, what you're looking for are some of your most creative and fervent supporters who are good in front of a camera. That on-camera charisma is very important. And it's a tough thing to do on the spot. If you have a great idea and maybe even have a videographer who can turn a video around really quickly, that's all awesome. But if you don't have the person to star in front of the camera, everything from a Facebook Live to an Agile video is going to fall flat. One of the many reasons why we are pioneering the student content team. This is a new service option, something we've been working with a small number of our partners on over the past few months, and we expect to do a lot more of it for a lot of reasons. One of them is we view this as a new twist on the call center and an answer to underperforming phone programs. This is a way of diversifying, making your phone program truly multi-channel, and instead of simply having students call people on the phone all night long, we can have them become these video stars, these charismatic, celebrities of the camera that can be a promotional unit for your fundraising operation. It's usually about 4 to 6 students. We don't want too many because it's important that we develop some familiarity with the students and your audience. We want alumni, we want constituents, we want your donors, your patients to get to know your content team. So what we ideally have, the right candidate would be someone who can produce video for sure, because we want them to do that user-generated content piece, but we also want someone who can star in front of the camera, and we want someone who can do the social media end of it as well. One of the side benefits of having a strong student content team, in addition to all of that amazing content, is they can also be online ambassadors. And because they are starring in content that is shared from your official accounts, whether it's a hospital account, an alumni account, a main university account, people will get to know them over time. So they become far more effective online ambassadors because they're a known commodity. Your audience, your supporters, your constituents, your alumni, your donors, they get to know this team. If anybody is familiar with major sports programs at big institutions, you've already seen this. They are the sideline reporters. And what you're seeing right here is Allie Krings. She is the sideline reporter for the University of Minnesota. I'm a season ticket holder. I know who Allie Krings is, first and last name and by face, because she is on the giant screen of the stadium every single Saturday during the fall, a half dozen times or more throughout the game. She's a known personality. She's familiar. She's someone who, if we get an email, we're probably going to notice it. We're almost certainly going to open it, and it's a lot more likely we're going to act on it. Conversion rates from known senders, from online ambassadors for gifts, are drastically, I'm talking about many hundreds of factors of X higher when an online ambassador is sending an email out. So if you're looking for a way to get ahead of the email woes, and if you've been paying attention, if you're like a lot of other people, 2018 was not a very good year for email. Email is becoming a very crowded space. You need to stand out. Student content team allows you to do that because you're creating these known personalities who you're then working with to send emails and social media posts to your constituents, to your alumni, to your donors. That makes giving happen. We're developing these student philanthropy-based personalities throughout the year, and it's about creating that relationship between the students and alumni via online channels. We don't just have the phone anymore. It's still there. It still works for certain segments, but it's not the only thing. And if it is the only thing, you're going to be missing out on a lot of potential donors and gifts. If you add this digital element to it, where students are still at the center, that's where we start to see a lot of multi-channel fundraising success, because we're putting that personalized video element with students at the forefront, connecting them to emails, connecting them to social media, and getting noticed. The message gets noticed when it comes to the student content team. It still keeps our mission front and center. And again, doesn't have to be a student content team. It could be something else, volunteers, grateful patients, advocates, anyone who's a fervent and well-known supporter of the organization could be the star of a content team. But in the higher ed space, the student content team piece makes a lot of sense. It's what the phone program did so well for so many decades. It gave alumni a channel back to campus. People liked, and still do, a certain segment still likes receiving phone calls from students so they can ask them about the new dorm on campus, or maybe if the old dorm that alumna was living in is still there, or if if the dining hall food is improved, or if that quirky old professor is still doing their thing on campus. Those conversations, that kind of connection, that kind of connectivity, that happens over the phone. It's been happening over the phone for a long time. That's why the phone program has worked so well. But the phone program is starting to underperform. We know what the ROI is on it. Most of you probably do. And this digital piece both enhances your phone program and is an entirely different channel to open up our opportunities for new segments of donors and supporters throughout the year, because we're still facilitating that student to alumni connection. We're just doing it through a modern technology like video. So again, students, grateful patients, staff, dedicated volunteers, however you're structuring this video content team, it isn't something you can just say, hey, go shoot video for us, send it to us, and we'll use it for fundraising. That UGC concept is awesome in theory. In reality, it doesn't work. You have to have someone leading this effort in a couple of different ways. First, you need to have a fundraising strategist. You need someone who is working with your overall development operation and the priorities there within, and building the videos to match those priorities. You need to be strategically minded. That's one of the best parts about the student content team or video content team concept is we're not just handing cameras off to students and saying, go tell the story of the institution. We are producing very deliberate videos with students at the focal point of those videos, as the stars of those videos, and then distributing those videos in a strategic way across email, social media, and the website to align with Giving Day, crowdfunding, but also multi-channel appeals, calling pools, calling cycles, the spring cycle, the fall cycle. We do want to have guidance for the students, because while we want to be producing some of the video, best case scenario is some of it we're producing, some of it the students are producing. And if we have some video trainers to guide them, to keep them on focus, to keep them driven towards the goal, we'll get that mix of really good content, the quality, high def content we're producing, along with that UGC that the students are producing. But again, we can't just rely on UGC. You should aim to produce one new video per week, 50 videos plus per year, with the student content team focused on whatever strategic priority you have across campus or across your organization. But the key is actually building that video for those students, for the cause, for the purpose. We can't just leave it up to them. It probably won't work. Video content team supports a Giving Day in obvious ways. We sort of had this at University of South Dakota. It's very fledgling, and it's kind of turning into a student content team, but that really was ultimately what it was, and that's how it worked, and that's how it drove the Giving Day to be so successful. They can produce student content team, video content team, volunteer content team, can produce user-generated content to personalize a plea for support, and they can be online ambassadors. And here's the best part about video and online ambassadors. No matter how you use it, if you're plugging your ambassadors, your influencers, your advocates into the content, if you're having them star in the video, they are going to so much more enthusiastically share that video because they are actually in the video. It's a wonderful way to ensure your ambassador shares by actually making them part of the content. Could be that you invite them for an interview during a Facebook Live, could be it's a pre-produced piece, could be Agile video during a giving day like this, but featuring your ambassadors in the video is a surefire way to make sure those ambassadors enthusiastically and repeatedly share that video content. Crowdfunding, if you're not doing video, you're not doing crowdfunding to its fullest. There's a ton of clear data out there that suggests crowdfunding projects with video almost, well, I shouldn't say almost always, but the majority of them will reach their goals. If there is no video, the majority of them will not reach their goals. Pretty simple. You need video to tell your crowdfunding story. It's built into pretty much every reputable crowdfunding platform where you can drop a video from YouTube or Vimeo into that video player, and there's a reason for that, because it works. It drives giving in a very big way. And it adds a dynamic element to multi-channel campaigns. This is where student content team especially can really see their value. We have direct mail, we have the phone program, and we have an email program. Maybe we have social media as well. If all of those things are disparate, working kind of on their own, or maybe only loosely related, they only perform so well. But the data is pretty clear. We've seen as much as 30% increases across all channels when every single channel is aligned with the others. So if you've got a mail piece that looks like a digital piece that has a video that reinforces that whole message, and the phone callers are talking along the same lines and messaging and themes that are going out via email, mail, and web, and you're going to a gift form that carries the same branding through the whole story, that's when we really start to see a lot of multi-channel success. The hard part, of course, is where does the video content come from? But if you already made that commitment to one new video per week, every year, to a student content team, the video's there. All you're doing is directing them towards that strategic priority at that particular point in time. Now, we talk a lot about major donors and online because we've had a lot of success with our partners using online to engage major gift donors, and it shouldn't be any surprise. We've seen stats for a long time now that said 85% of millionaires are active on at least one social media network. That's the Fidelity Investment study of their millionaire investors. The median age of those investors, 54. Talk about mobile pay. This is an Accenture study. Found that 55% of high-income users have used mobile pay. So, you're checking out at the grocery store, and instead of using cash, check, or credit card, you pull out your phone and use Apple Pay. 55% of people who make $250,000 a year or more have used mobile pay. That's compared to 40% of the general population, but here's the shocker, compared to 52% of millennials. So a 60, 65-year-old who has a $300,000 a year salary is considerably more likely to use mobile pay than a millennial. And we've seen other stats too that talk about tablet usage, for example. The more wealth you have, the more active you are on tablets. No, excuse me, no surprise then. The Groundwork Digital's partners have been raising 6- and 7-figure gifts over the past couple of years. We do a lot of engagements around activating major donors for digital. One of the things that we discovered from a past partner of ours, Emory University, is how they are using major donor microsites. And I love this. Building a website for a major gift donor around their area of support, around the gift that they give. Could be a cultivation tool, could be part of the solicitation process, could be stewardship. In this case, it was stewardship. Now, you're not seeing the actual website from Emory because this donor data is private, so we, of course, didn't want to share that. But this is the same basic idea. It mirrors what they had in place. And what this is this microsite that addresses the donor by name, talks about their giving, the impact of their giving, and features content that reinforces that giving. Now, here's the thing. Nothing beats video content. Not for stewardship, not for solicitation, not for cultivation. There is no better channel at generating giving than personalized video. For a donor who's going to give you 6 figures, or already has given you 6 figures, or quite a bit more, it absolutely justifies taking this approach. This is the type of thing that, woven into a development officer's engagement strategy, stewardship strategy for a donor, works extraordinarily well. Because to give you an idea of what's happening at Emory, for example, they've had a donor, made a big gift. This donor had worked at a corporation that Emory wanted to engage, hoped to engage. And what they did was they built a microsite that both thanked that donor for their support, but also talked about corporate giving opportunities. So what did that donor do? Marched right into their office, shared this microsite with everybody within their office, and opened up an enormous amount of corporate giving potential from that employer towards Emory. So there's a lot of ways to strategically build these in during campaigns, during giving days, throughout the course of the year. Annual report time, we're working on some concepts around building annual reports with individualized microsites for major gift donors built into that. But at the core of it, again, is really good personalized, customized video. Here's why. 57% of everybody who watches a nonprofit's video will go on to make a gift to that nonprofit. It's a Google study. Google owns YouTube. Maybe it's a little bit embellished, but you know what? If this is even 10% accurate, we all need to be producing more videos. Look at your YouTube channel. Look at your YouTube page. Any video you put up is going to be seen by at least a couple hundred people. Bigger institutions, several thousand people. If they're watching that video to completion and this is even remotely close to accurate, think about what that means for your new donor acquisition potential just off of video alone. Here's the other piece of it. We all struggle with retention. We all struggle with donor participation rates, alumni participation. 72% of donors say they stopped donating to a nonprofit because of poor, vague, or irrelevant content. Basically, they just weren't being told how their gifts were being used, how their gifts were making the world a better place. And again, this is an easy fix. We just have to produce a lot more content. Student content team, volunteer content team, right then and there, that one particular move, investing in that much video content could completely reverse this number and within a year or two, solve your retention woes. So how do we make this happen? How do we make all this awesome acquisition and unending retention improvements over time happen? Well, it obviously does require some budget, but we have budget. We're all spending budget. We've got 6-7 figure budgets over the course of our entire program, and a big chunk of that often goes to phone programs which are not performing the way they used to perform. The latest number I heard, I was talking with a friend, and he said that they were spending $2.30 for every dollar they earned back on the phone. I mean, a digital program should at least break even. And this is when we're talking about the platform, so the technology, giving day, crowdfunding, online gift forms, video production, and your staff time, people to run it, to actually lead the program. All of that included, you should still be at least breaking even on an annual fund-focused digital program. And if it's for major gifts, you should have about 10x return. That's what our partners are enjoying. Does your phone do that for you? Is your phone leading to 6- and 7-figure gifts? Does your phone break even or actually make money for you, which is typically the case in the digital space? I mean, be honest with yourself about that. We have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 going to phone programs that are just not doing what they used to do. And here's what digital can do. These are average giving day totals. These are for gifts that actually come in during the giving day online. So nothing taken in advance, not from the mail program, not from the phone. This is online revenue that comes in during an online giving day. The average for a 24 to 48 hour giving day is $141,000. This is from the Hubbub platform, which has done quite a few giving days around the world, actually, and right here in the United States. For small schools, it's just under 70,000. For the big schools, it's closer to 200,000. Again, that's just the gifts that come in through the platform online. What happens when we take all of it? When we take maybe a solicitation that goes out via direct mail in advance of the giving day, or the gifts that come in over the phone, plus the major gifts? And again, we're not talking about the major gifts that, a donor gives reliably every year, and 6 months before the giving day, the development officer goes to them and says, hey, would you like to sponsor a challenge? That doesn't count. That gift was there already. We're talking about one of two things: either gifts that happen as a result of the development officer going to the donor and saying, hey, we've got a giving day coming up. Would you be interested in making a large gift to support that giving day? Or, of course, the big ones that come in day of. Two of our last 3 giving days, we had a $1 million gift to name a locker room and a $250,000 gift come into the organizations that happened day of, that were not pre-planned, but were the result of digitally active gift officers who knew what they were doing in this space and knew how to leverage something like an online giving day. And then there's crowdfunding, because it's kind of the 1-2 punch. You've got the giving day and you've got crowdfunding. We won't even go into the multi-channel piece, because that's a whole other element of it. We're just looking at these 2 things, the giving day and crowdfunding. And we're looking at averages for, again, small schools and then large schools, pretty good numbers. Couple that with the giving day, and we're talking about $200,000, with a couple thousand, 3,000 donors for the smaller schools, and $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 for some of the larger schools with many thousands of donors coming in. Pretty comparable to what a lot of phone programs can do just with Giving Day and crowdfunding, not talking about the multi-channel digital element. But the sky is the limit. I am so impressed with the University of Minnesota. The University of Minnesota's foundation does incredible work at every level. They're in the midst of a $4 billion campaign. It's going swimmingly. And they've been doing crowdfunding for quite some time. This is just the first 2 years alone of their crowdfunding. They raised more than $1 million, more than 8,200 donors. Significant percentage of them were alumni donors, young donors, students. And their third year, so 2018, this is just 16 and 17 numbers. 2018, they did this in one single year. Now, how does that compare to a phone program? This is just crowdfunding. Their Giving Day does well more than $1 million, and there's no funny math there. They're not moving numbers around. They're not moving giant gifts to make the Giving Day look bigger. They're very honest in their assessment of it because they want to know how this performs. Giving Day and crowdfunding alone at the University of Minnesota is a $2 million a year plus small gift activity, not to mention the massive gifts that come in from major gift donors to support efforts like this. Again, how does that compare to your phone program? Video is key to digital success. Digital is key to being successful in today's marketplace. It is harder than ever before. I mean, like we said at the onset, you've seen it. You've seen how difficult it is to stay ahead of email on a Giving Day, to keep your name above the fray, the end of the year, my goodness, I go to my email account and there are at least 100 emails from different nonprofit organizations stressing how urgent the day is. Like, urgent probably came across my subject feed, I don't know, 75 times out of those 100 emails. And I know I work in nonprofits, so I have a slightly higher number than what most people would probably have, but even if it's 20 or 30, that's just a lot of noise. How do you rise above that? You rise above that with video, with online ambassadors, and by combining both of them, and then being timely, relevant, and agile with all of the above. When you do that, you're successful. You have increased acquisition, you have improved retention, you do better in the leadership annual space, you engage more major gift donors and prospects. You just got to find budget for it. Got to make it a priority. So that's the next steps. That's what I want to leave you with here before we take questions. As we're going through these next steps, make sure you use the questions field. Again, questions is on your dashboard. Go ahead, type it in. We will get to those questions in just a second. We're seeing a couple pop up already, so I do appreciate that. Get your question in now so we get a chance to review it online during the webinar. And then, of course, if we don't get to it, we'll absolutely follow up with you via email after the fact. So again, commit to more video. Build a team internally or with outside videographers or with a combination of both, but build a team that can do video for you quickly, in a relevant way, in an agile way, in a quality way, in a way that aligns with your strategic priorities. Always test, always test the outcomes, what's possible, what's not. Where are you now on social media? What does your email look like? How are your online giving numbers? Then study the effect of video over time and what impact it has on those numbers and what types of video work best. Always be testing. That's kind of the mantra of any digital marketer, and we believe very strongly in that as well, whether it's email, video, social media content, websites, gift forms. Test as much as you can. There's the only sure way to know, and if there is a way to know, is to constantly be testing. And then be agile. Leverage the moment. What's happening now? What does your audience care about? That's how you rise above the noise during giving days, during Giving Tuesday, end of calendar year, end of fiscal year. That's the key, is being agile and leveraging the moment. All right, thank you very much. We are going to go ahead and jump into some questions. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the first couple that we have here. And the first question is, can we use volunteers or do we have to pay the student content team members? And that's a very good question. And here's our thinking on this. One of the things that we want to accomplish with the student content team is, again, creating those familiar personalities over time. If it's a volunteer position, your burnout rate's going to be higher, your commitment's going to be lower. What we want to be able to do is build a team. I mean, in a perfect case scenario, if you are in the higher ed space, you are working with freshmen and sophomores, and you're hiring them, and they are going to be with you for 2 or 3 years, and your audience is going to come to know them very well through the content you're producing with them on a regular basis. The best way to guarantee that happens, both in terms of frequency throughout the engagement and also keeping them for several years at a time, is by paying them, just like you would a student caller. If you have 40 student callers, take 5 or 6 of them, make them student content team members. You still get a pretty good calling team. You can reduce your phone spend a little bit, be more targeted with your phone, and then use the student content team to engage the wider base of donors using digital, using video. Let's see, can online ambassadors serve on the content teams? Pretty related question, pretty similar. You know, I mean, yes and no. I think, again, if you have somebody who's a very fervent supporter, a very dedicated online ambassador, somebody who's been following you for years and is always looking for the next volunteer opportunity, and is someone who really rises to the challenge during giving days and maybe attends your online ambassador happy hours and so on and so forth, you know, yeah, they can definitely, you know, be someone who could be on that content team because they're going to stick with you. It might be a really exciting, you know, volunteer opportunity for those really highly motivated advocates for the organization. But generally speaking, we still want to try to find paid employees. You know, this could be something, again, if you don't have students, but you are in the nonprofit space, think about your current staff. Who's got that personality? Who's really good in front of a camera? Who can really lead a presentation as well as anybody? You know, there are other content team members that you can pull on who maybe aren't necessarily students. You know, for some of the more, you know, graduate focused programs, there might be graduate students, researchers, popular faculty that are known, you know, over generations. They would be fantastic content team members. So the student piece, we call student content team because, you know, the primary function here is how do we rethink and elevate the phone? And student callers are a big part of the phone program. But there are other people tied to your organization, online ambassadors, faculty, staff, who could certainly be effective content team members as well. All right, let's see. One more question here. Again, if you have any additional questions, go ahead, type them into the screen. We'll get to them in just a second. But we're wondering, what is the staff commitment to run a student content team? Again, think of it in terms of how the phone's always been run. You know, you don't just have a room where you bring in students who you're paying and then set them free to call alumni all night long. There's obviously a call center manager, program manager. Same thing for a student content team. You want at least probably a 2 or 3 person team, one who is, well, all of them should really be fundraising strategists. Like Mariana said earlier, you want people who understand fundraising strategy and video. That's how this works best. So what you want is you want people who can lead the strategy, think strategically about how the content team work is going to elevate everything from the calling program to direct mail pieces, multi-channel giving days, a campaign, corporate engagement, you know, major gift donor engagement, major donor microsites. There's a lot of ways we can plug the student content team in. So we want a fundraising strategist leading that, and then working with that fundraising strategist are video fundraising strategists, people who can actually produce the video content. That, I think, is the biggest mistake that we can make with this, is not putting the resources into production. We need to be able to produce the content to ensure that we have the volume of content that we need over time. So the staff commitment, you know, I'd say, you know, maybe not necessarily full time, but probably 2 or 3 people who are dedicating a substantial chunk of their time to finding and hiring the students, training the students, working with the students on the video content. Students can be very involved in structuring, you know, the actual video itself. In fact, they should be, because they'll feel more natural and more bought in if it's their concept, and they come up with some really cool creative things too. But we need someone to shoot that and record it and produce it, edit it. We need someone to make sure that we're hitting all those deadlines, someone who's driving the students, and again, someone who is bringing all of this work back to the strategic priorities of your development operation. All right, I think that about covers it. No other questions at this time, so we will go ahead and wrap things up just a little bit early. I want to thank everybody for attending. This has been a lot of fun talking about this concept. We're having so much fun experimenting with Agile video and the student content team, and we really do feel like this is an important future direction for all fundraising, but especially in the higher education space. So we will follow up with you after the fact. We've got the recording of the webinar. We'll send that as well. I appreciate you taking the time today. If you have any questions about how to do this at your institution or your organization, do not hesitate to reach out. I'm Justin at groundworkdigital.com. Mariana is Mariana at groundworkdigital.com. And we look forward to your questions, your comments, your thoughts, and we really hope to hear from you soon and be working with you soon as well. Thanks so much. Best of luck with your Agile video fundraising.